In the modern NBA, player mobility has become one of the most intriguing aspects of the offseason. About a decade ago, it wasn't common to see star players changing teams or teaming up to try to improve their chances to win a championship, but now that's one of the most things. Some consider this fact has affected the purity of the game. Others believe it helps the league from a commercial standpoint, but whether we like it or not, that most star players consider winning a title more important than finishing their careers with a single team has become a reality. And even what was expected to be a quiet offseason has had its share of drama because of this. Since there weren't too many big-name free agents available in the open market, it was believed there wouldn't be any superstars changing teams this time around. But that changed once James Harden and Russell Westbrook demanded to be traded away from Houston. Now, as they face a difficult situation, the Rockets are doing their best to try to keep themselves afloat and perhaps even keep Harden along the way. Welcome to Courtside. Today we're talking about the recent crisis in Houston and the things the team can do to remain a playoff contender. Since the end of the 90s and until 2012, the Rockets were a team that enjoyed little to no postseason success at all. The franchise won only a playoff series during that stretch despite being guided by players like Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady. Their shortcomings were caused in part because of injuries that limited the effectiveness and availability of the star duo and eventually led them to retire at an early age. Thus, the team was deprived of a star player who could take them to the next level, but that situation didn't last long. A few seasons after losing its stars, Houston managed to acquire James Harden from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And before anyone could notice, the Beard turned into an all-star as well as into the Rockets' next franchise player. Behind Harden's play, the team returned to the playoffs and kept making steady improvements until it earned recognition as a championship contender. However, as the seasons went by, many people started to question Houston's ability to win a championship, as well as Harden's ability to take his team to the promised land. Those critics come from the fact that the Rockets have been unable to make it past the conference finals, despite Harden playing at an MVP level and playing along with different stars throughout the years. However, that hasn't been necessarily the team's fault. While the front office managed to pair the Beard with Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, most recently Russell Westbrook, they've always run into more talented teams during the playoffs. In 4 of the last 6 seasons, the Rockets were eliminated by the Golden State Warriors, who made it to the finals in each of those years. In 2017, they were defeated by an elite Spurs team that could have also made it to the finals if it wasn't because of injuries. And last season, they were defeated by the eventual champions in the Los Angeles Lakers. In other words, Houston had been a good team during the last few years, but it hasn't been good enough to get over legitimate contenders in the Western Conference. And the year in which they were the closest to doing it, an injury to Chris Paul caused them to lose against the Warriors despite having taken a series lead in the conference finals. Still, despite all the disappointing season, it never looked like Harden wanted to leave the team. In fact, after being eliminated by the Lakers during last season's playoffs, he talked about how the Rockets needed to make improvements to play better during the following season. So, what made him change his mind so suddenly? Shortly after their season came to an end, head coach Mike D'Antoni and general manager Daryl Morey both announced they wouldn't keep working with the team going forward. The duo earned Harden's respect as they worked together to build a roster that focused on long-range shooting and small ball. They also developed a system in which the Beard was allowed to shoot and handle the ball as much as he wanted. As a result, he became one of the best defensive players in the league. Therefore, their departures could have caused some concern in the shooting guard. However, it wasn't until the replacements were announced that things reached a point of no return. While it's unknown where Harden's thoughts regarding the promotion of Rafael Stone as the team's GM were, it doesn't seem like he was against it, especially considering Stone had already been involved in the decision-making before Morey announced his intention to leave the team. But things were different when it came to the head coaching position. According to multiple reports, he wanted the team to hire Clippers assistant and former champion Tyronn Lue to be D'Antoni's successor. But unfortunately, that possibility went out the window when it was announced Lue would be promoted as the Clippers' next head coach to replace Doc Rivers. After that happened, the team didn't have too many remaining options since most of the better-known available coaches had already joined different organizations. Still, the front office tried to acquire a good coach and decided to sign Stephen Silas. Silas was an assistant coach in Dallas and was the mind behind the historically efficient Mavericks offense of last season. So, with previous experience coaching a player similar to Harden and Luka Doncic, he was seen as the best option to revitalize the Rockets' offense. However, it seems like Harden didn't feel the same way. While the shooting guard still hasn't talked about the reason that led him to ask for a trade, reports have described he requested it after learning about Silas's hiring. Some believe that hiring a rookie coach made him question the franchise's commitment to winning a championship in the short term, and the fact that the team couldn't hire his preferred option didn't make things any easier. There's also the belief he was worried about some of the team's other moves in the past, as well as about owner Tillman Fertitta's unwillingness to go into the luxury tax so the Rockets could put together a roster that could compete against the Warriors and Lakers. In the end, though, those are only rumors, and we may not have a way of knowing whether they're true unless Harden decides to talk about it. However, there's one thing he's made clear with his actions. He doesn't believe the Rockets can win a championship. His request to be traded comes from his desire to win a title sooner rather than later, as well as from the fact Houston's latest moves seem to have affected his confidence in their chance to win it at all. That's why he has to be moved to a contender. It also seems like he believes he'll have a better chance of winning that championship by playing in the Eastern Conference. After all, his list of preferred destinations only includes Brooklyn, Miami, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee so far. Still, while he's provided the Rockets with a list of places where he would like to go, at the moment it doesn't seem likely he'll be playing for any of those teams anytime soon, and there are at least two big reasons for that. The first one is simple. Houston doesn't want to trade Harden, and that makes complete sense. The Beard is arguably the best scorer in the league, as well as an excellent playmaker. He's been able to single-handedly take the Rockets to the playoffs in the past and has been at the center of everything the franchise has done over the last few years. So losing him would be a devastating blow to the team, and replacing his production could be something impossible to do, which means Houston would likely lose its condition as a championship contender. The second reason has to do with what the teams can offer in return for Harden. If the Rockets have to let their franchise player go away, they'll expect to receive a package of assets that can compensate for his loss. However, putting such a package together may be difficult for teams that are already contending themselves. According to reports, the front office is looking for picks and a young player with star potential in any deal involving Harden. It's also been reported that Houston is not interested in acquiring players like Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie. That leaves only Miami and Philly as contenders to acquiring the shooting guard. However, the Sixers seem to be unwilling to let either Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid go, and it's not clear whether Miami would want to send Tyler Hero away. In other words, a trade may still be far off, but that may be exactly what the Rockets are trying to do. While other teams wonder whether parting ways with young pieces for a player who may leave after a couple seasons, the Rockets will do everything within their power to show Harden they can keep competing for a championship. The first move towards that goal was retooling the roster so it could compete against more talented teams. While it looked like it would be impossible for Houston to make considerable upgrades only a few weeks ago, somehow they've managed to put together one of the most intriguing casts in the league. The most notable changes was the addition of John Wall. The former Wizard came to the team in a trade that sent Westbrook to D.C. That way the team managed to acquire a new and talented point guard while also moving one of their disgruntled players away. But that wasn't the only addition. The front office also managed to acquire Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins, showing their interest in playing with a more traditional lineup once again. On paper, the Rockets now have arguably the most talented roster they've had in years. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it will translate into wins. In fact, there are too many doubts regarding Houston's potential at the moment. Both Wall and Cousins are coming off injuries that took them down for all or almost all of last two seasons, and things are even worse in the case of Wood, given that despite being a young and talented player, he's only been a starter in 14 games before. In short, the Rockets are taking a huge gamble with their roster. If things work out for the best, Houston may have one of the most talented backcourts in the league, as well as one of the most versatile front courts. However, there's no guarantee things will work out or that everyone will remain healthy. But it's safe to say that at the moment, the franchise doesn't have any available options other than to risk it all to try to convince its best player to stay. Will it be enough? That remains to be seen, but we can tell that Houston will be a team to watch as the upcoming season gets closer. Altogether, the Rockets are going through one of the most difficult situations that any team can face. After being a piece or two away from making it to the finals, they're about to lose the player that helped them get back their status as a contender. And while not everything is lost for the team, everyone in the franchise will need to prove they're committed to winning if they hope to keep Harden. If they do their due diligence, there's a chance the shooting guard decides to stay, just like Kobe did with the Lakers in 2008. But if they don't, it'll be hard for them to find a proper replacement. But now, do you believe the Rockets will be able to convince Harden to stay? Or do you think it's only a matter of time before he gets traded away? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to like it and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. We are Courtside.